number 8 is an important one to Audi. The A8 is their flagship saloon car, the R8 is their flagship supercar, and now there's the Q8, their flagship SUV. Now SUVs are absolutely rife, with all manufacturers getting in on the game, with even Lamborghini, Maserati, Rolls-Royce all rolling out SUVs. But the companies that already had SUVs, like Audi with cars like, say, the Q7, are trying to expand their range, making sure that absolutely every single possible combination of income, desirability and practicality has been catered for in the SUV market. So Audi, not wanting to miss out on every potential customer who wants an SUV, have added this new top tier of SUV above the Q7 in the Q8. The Q8 is more of a lifestyle car, in the same way that BMW has the X5 as the go-anywhere rugged SUV that can also handle off-road stuff, but it has the X6 for people who like to buy weird-looking cars. As the top-tier SUV, the Q8 is trying to do a couple of things. For starters, it's trying to take the luxury that we already know and enjoy in the A8, a phenomenal car, and will basically lift it up by a couple of inches. There's a real honesty to this car. If you buy the Q8, if you're interested in a car like this, you're saying to the world, yes, I'm going to buy an SUV. Yes, I'm going to be one of those people. But you know what? I admit it. I'm going to drive this thing in the city. I'm not going to take it through muddy puddles. I'm not going to drive it into a river. I'm not going to go up the side of a mountain. I am purely just going to drive around with my family and my luggage from time to time, when really a hatchback would do the job.
At launch, the Q8 will be available with a 3-litre turbocharged diesel engine, good for an adequate 282 brake horsepower and 443 pounds-feet of torque. A slightly smaller diesel engine and a 3-litre turbocharged petrol engine will be available next year.
Design-wise, Audi are really trying to give this the essence of a coupe in the shape of an SUV, and you can see that in things like the sloping rear roofline, which tend to make it look a little bit more squat and sporty, the sculpted front and rear designs that give it a really aggressive presence without being too bulky, and things like the frameless doors, which I personally think look a little bit odd, especially if you're opening and closing the door with the window down. It has some touches from the A8, like that double thickness glass that keep the noise out, but because this car at launch is only available with a diesel, that engine noise that is coming in doesn't quite sound as nice as it does in its A8 brother. There are 2 trim levels that you can look at. The S-Line, which is the entry level, which still comes packed with tech, will start at around £65,000, or the Vorsprung spec, which is their top of the line, which can take you all the way up to £85,000. So for that kind of money, you could start to look at entry-level Cayennes, or a lot from the Range Rover family, or indeed a BMW X6 if, again, you fancy buying a weird-looking car.
There's a lot to like about the Audi Q8, but it's worth pulling over to discuss a feature that's simply mind-boggling.
Now, as nice as this car is, there is some genuine witchcraft going on inside of it. And that's to do with this 3D camera system that it has around it. Now, we've seen the kind of top-down, eagle-eyed view in cars for quite some time. The Q8 has the next generation of that, where it feels like there's a camera crew orbiting around your car. In this 3D view, I can pan around the car, literally as if there's a cameraman there, swinging around the front of the car. I can see the car behind us, but I can also go into the perspective of that car and look at the back of this car. I have been a professional cameraman. I am relatively well versed in how technology works. I cannot figure out how this does what it does. It is simply witchcraft, and I do feel that we need to start burning someone for this, because this is unnatural. Performance-wise, it's an SUV, so its 0 to 62 is 6.3 seconds and top speed is 152 miles an hour. These are the things you expect from a car this size. It feels remarkably light to drive. The car kind of belies its weight, and through the turns in town, until that is, you get on the brakes. And then the heft of this thing becomes quite apparent. The brakes are effective and do bring it to a stop quite briskly, but you do realize that this car weighs more than your average little hatchback. Gearbox is the familiar Audi 8-speed Tiptronic, which is fine. In an SUV especially, you're not really going to find its shortcomings. In sportier cars, it can feel a little bit laggy, but in an SUV it works absolutely fine. And of course, you can take control yourself with the ubiquitous, horrible paddles that Audi fits to all of its cars. Although it's got quite a lot of potential travel in the suspension, it's still quite bouncy. It doesn't quite have a magic carpet ride. It's fun and engaging and quite communicative, which is good, but I expect that more from the dynamic modes. In comfort, I kind of expect more of a laid back, relaxing kind of attitude. Right now the suspension is bouncing me around a little bit like a rag doll. Part of that bumpy nature in the suspension could be that this is on the higher Vorsprung trim, which comes with 22-inch wheels. I think possibly, if it was my money, I might spec for the 21s.
Audi makes some brilliant cars, and almost everything you'd ever want in a daily driver had already been fitted to the A8. The Q8 then is for people who want all the same experiences and toys, but in an SUV wrapper. The kind of people who want to equip themselves with a car that looks like it could go off-road, but won't. Ever. Just like pretty much every other SUV, but this one pretends slightly less hard. In an incredibly crowded SUV marketplace, the Q8 stands out with bold design and great features. It can be counted alongside offerings from Land Rover and Porsche, and possibly most importantly, it's better looking than a BMW X6.